Story 1. Badger Mushroom. Story 2. People set up their own websites about their interests with loads of useful knowledge, pictures, and a page of links to guide you to more information once you finish. Now you search for something and get many advertisements and a link to Wikipedia. Story 3. Ebaum's World. Jake and Amir watching the Times Square webcam. Also downloading a mouse cursor updating toolbar, which was full of malware, causing my parents' computer to become unusable. Story 4. Trogdor. Trogdor was a man. He was a dragon man. Or maybe he was just a dragon. But he was still Trogdor. Trogdor. Burninating the countryside. Burninating the peasants. Burninating all the people. And their thatched roof cottages. Thatched roof cottages. Whoa, this has wicked dueling guitar solos. It's like Squeedly versus Meadly over here. Go Squeedly. Go Squeedly. Squeedly wins. When all the land is in ruins. And Burnination has forsaken the countryside. Only one guy will remain. My money's on Trogdor. Trogdor. And the Trogdor comes in the night. Story 5. Upgrading from a 14.4 kilobits per second modem to a 56 kilobits per second modem. Everything was just straight up hypertext markup language and some basic scripts, so a 640 by 480 scan of a Playboy centerfold took just 2 to 3 minutes. Story 6. Badger. Mushroom. Badger. Mushroom. Story 7. Before the centralization on a few social media platforms, when everything was more spread out, forums, quirky personal pages, blogs, early YouTube, and YouTube music never dies. Story 8. In the late 1990s, houses were transitioning from modems to cable. This was also when the games Half-Life and Rainbow Six were released, marking the beginning of serious online gaming. If there is one thing I do not regret about being older, it is having been there. Kids today will never know the excitement of connecting and gaming with people right when it all started. It was like the Jim Carrey speech in the movie Cable Guy. Story 9. Like 1995 when I was 14, the internet back then was not taken for granted. It was about exploring, not mass downloading, streaming, and instant everything. Also, the MySpace era. Story 10. Internet relay chat and the ease of exploiting software vulnerabilities in the late 1990s, before everything became more secure. Story 11. In 2003, when there was dial-up internet, you couldn't use the phone while the internet was running. Does anyone remember Kazaa? Story 12. Before social media and content algorithms were pushed to hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people validating their beliefs and giving them a warm feeling inside, there was hope. At the turn of the century, everyone thought the internet would become a special global community that unites the world. Now, a large portion of it is filled with vile hatred directed at anyone who is not like you. This gross misinformation echo chamber mentality is likely to topple governments, tear countries apart, and pit neighbors against each other. The year 2020 comes to mind. Story 13. I read the code from enough GeoCities websites to teach myself rudimentary hypertext markup language and make my own GeoCities page. 1999 was a good time on the World Wide Web. Story 14. Probably around 2006. Early enough that forums and niche websites were still abundant and great, but late enough that YouTube was already available and being used for various early content. For published content, you could have an excellent curated RSS feed on Google Reader. Also, maps and email websites were very competent by that time. Story 15. Homestar Runner. Specifically, the episode where Strong Bad's computer gets a virus and Bubs has to shoot it. When the action continued outside the frame of the show, it was magic. Story 16. As someone who has been on the internet since close to the start in 1993, probably the late 2000s, memes and advertisements were around, but you could avoid them. Not everything was commercialized. The speed was good but mostly reliant on wired connections. The early 2000s were great too, especially if you could afford cable. It was a very Wild West era. Story 17. For some people, it was the early days of YouTube. For others, maybe it was Vine, Microsoft Network Messenger, old-school forums, or those weird viral Flash games. Story 18. From 2007 to 2008, YouTube had not been overwhelmed by corporate influence. Anime was a free streaming treasure. My Gaia online account was earning virtual currency, and my avatar was admired by other teenagers. Everything loaded slowly because LimeWire was using the family computer's bandwidth in the background. Story 19. When everything was accessed through a browser on personal computers instead of phone-dominated, gate-controlled, infinite-scroll algorithm-driven social media platforms. Story 20. LiveJournal is the perfect social network that has not yet been matched. It went downhill fast after being sold to the Russian owners. Story 21. Xbox Live on the original Xbox. Unreal Championship Instagib capture the flag was great. I bought a third-party controller with loose sticks to increase sensitivity for the old Xbox console, which I loved. Then came Rainbow Six 2 and Halo 2, which was the defining moment for Xbox Live. The release was huge. Being online was a big deal, its matchmaking system was excellent, and suddenly everyone had Xbox Live. If you know anything about Halo open chats, at the time that was not always a good thing. However, it was great to have more people around. Unlike personal computers, which took a long time to standardize microphones, almost everyone on Xbox Live had a microphone because Microsoft sold a cheap microphone and subscription kit that most people bought. Honestly, the microphone rate was at least 75%. I attended a small school, and it was an awesome way to meet people, like chat rooms with plasma rifles. Story 22. AOL chat rooms. We had yearly meetings in Atlantic City for probably 6 or 7 years straight. Kaya 8948, if any of my old friends read this. Story 23. We used to find strange content and just send links to each other. We did not tell each other what it was going to be. There used to be some wild content out there. Story 24. When you could learn to do anything and get honest reviews from real people on YouTube. Today, it is all deceptive influencers and podcast hosts. Story 25. Before the invention of the web browser, when it was not mainstream, you could trust information you transferred via file transfer protocol. Usenet was better for discussion because it required non-real-time responses, allowing people more time to think. Story 26. When any YouTuber who had 100,000 or more followers was known by everyone. These days, I stumble upon someone who has over 1 million subscribers, yet I have never heard of them. It is so strange compared to the old days. Story 27. The peak was early YouTube around 2007 to 2012, when creators were unique, raw, and free. No ads every 2 minutes, no algorithm burnout. Just people making content for fun. Smosh, early PewDiePie, viral videos like Charlie Bit My Finger. Now it is TikTok clones and brand deals. Story 28. The age of Adobe Flash. When the internet was dominated by weird, hilarious animations on sites like Newgrounds and Homestar Runner, it was creativity for its own sake. No one was trying to build a brand. They were just making art, and it was glorious. Story 29. The time before people became too comfortable publicly being rude to everyone. The internet is so toxic now. It used to be fun. Story 30. Stick Death and Rotten in the early 2000s. Introducing people to Two Girls, One Cup for the first time was also a lot of fun. Story 31. Definitely, we would wake up excited to see one of Stampy Longnose's videos in the morning. Story 32. Counter-Strike surf servers used to be constantly full with dozens of people chatting in voice, beatboxing, playing instruments, racing each other, comparing map times, routes, skips, and speed strategies, teaching new players to surf and complete their first map, and trading community-made items to show off. The good old days. Story 33. When high-quality video streaming was available but not yet monetized, YouTube and television network websites streamed content for free with no or very limited advertisements. Watching Lost in high definition the day or week after it aired on the ABC website for free was where it was at. Story 34. I forget the name of them, but I found a group of various hypertext markup language-based chat rooms in the late 1990s. They had a limit of about 20 people per room and automatically refreshed for updates. I wish I could remember the name. Either way, I spent so much time chatting with many people. Story 35. Back when 3 to 5 megabits per second with digital subscriber line was the standard. MySpace was still popular and it was the primary social media platform. It was not used much otherwise. Online gaming was strong and you no longer had to tie up a phone line. This was before Facebook, when Napster and LimeWire were popular. It was a good time. Story 36. eBaum's world in general, specifically the Mr. Burgess and soundboard prank calls. Unforgivable and old Greg as well. Plus one video that's hard to find where a group of kids are skateboarding and being ridiculous. One mentions that he is the god of skateboarding. In another scene, one of the boys tries to get the attention of a girl named Kelly by repeatedly saying her name. She does not answer, and he calls her a dyke. It was perfection. Those were the absolute peak for me. Story 37. The mid to late 1990s was an interesting time. Usenet, Freenet, text-based multi-user dungeons, MapQuest printable directions, brick Nokia phones, GeoCities, MySpace, forums for your niche interest. It was super cool. Then the masses came, then the advertisements, and here we are. Story 38. When my boss would print out every supposed fact or health scare and pin it on the break room notice board, we swallow 8 spiders in our sleep. Underarm deodorant causes cancer. Neil Armstrong getting his next-door neighbor a blowjob. Story 39. MIRC in the 1990s. Some multiplayer Tetris game. Stealing ears in Diablo. Fresh meat. Downloading a Dave Matthews Band live concert recording from an address that some guy in a dorm posted on his door. Story 40. Reddit is a platform where people come together to discuss a wide range of topics with great detail and focus every day. Story 41. When I was just out of high school, Jacksepticeye posted daily. A few years later, Ethan and Markiplier created Unisanus. That was peak YouTube. Story 42. Mid to late 2000s. MP3 blogs stumble upon pre-Facebook beta, classic era YouTube, Tumblr when it was new, Flickr. Story 43. Half-Life 1 Deathmatch Stockyard. I was one of the first with high-speed internet while everyone else was on dial-up. Story 44. AOL chat rooms, ogrish.com, and a few similar websites had appalling content, but I cannot remember their names. Story 45. Before Snapchat and Instagram became popular, everyone had a phone, but not everyone was using it to look at the newest trends. Story 46. Numa Numa Guy Kitten Cannon Game, that flash puzzle game that leads to the photo and scream of the girl from the Exorcist film. Story 47. Playing checkers on Prodigy at my wealthy friend's house, which had a computer with internet in the early 1990s. Story 48. Badgers. Story 49. Speaking of memory, when I was young in the 2010s, the internet, old YouTube, Yahoo, Skype, the colors and sound, all of it stuck with me. Story 50. First Peak. 4chan, Chatango, Kelly Loves Shoes, Peter Chow, BuzzFeed, League of Legends and Skype, KSI Dubstep, Young Facebook, and Slender Man Reaction and Let's Play videos, Markiplier, KSI and Deiji, PewDiePie. The internet had a revival again from 2018 to COVID, which peaked at number 15 Burger King foot lettuce. Chills. YouTube creator Dramageddon, Nuke's Top 5, True Crime YouTubers, Tiger King and Carol Baskins, BuzzFeed Unsolved, Womblands, TikTok drama in general, COVID music, and the Trump presidency. Story 51. When the nude picture of Carmen Electra finally finished downloading through my 2400 bits per second modem, I was 11. I think I read a couple of Goosebumps books while waiting. Story 52. Early LiveJournal. My friend won LiveJournal Idol 1 year and now she is a published author. LiveJournal helped me through my divorce and cancer. I became locally famous on LiveJournal. I made friends on LiveJournal that I am still friends with all these years later. When LiveJournal was sold, I printed my entire journal. I needed to replace an ink cartridge to finish, and then I walked away. I learned so much from the people I met there. Story 53. All Your Base. Numa Numa. Kidding. That was awful even in the late 1990s. Multi-user shared hunt and multi-user dungeons on 19.9 kilobits per second dial-up. Story 54. Surfing Rotten.com or other sites like it with Netscape Navigator. Then working on my personal homepage on GeoCities. or hanging out in Yahoo chat rooms and using Windows Media Player for voice chats. Story 55. Before Donald Trump and TikTok, the 2010s were pretty great. There were interesting content creators on YouTube. Instagram featured amazing pictures. Online discourse was more focused on your niche of interest rather than national politics. There was less racism in public, especially on Twitter. Twitter was actually amazing at one point around 2014, with many interesting conversations and insights. Now it has become a cesspool. I sometimes mourn the old Twitter. Story 56. Playing the game for the in-game currency instead of paying real money to play. Story 57. Around 1999, a woman I worked with at the same mall suggested I get a webcam so she could share things from home. I immediately went to the electronics store and bought one. Watching her on the webcam from the comfort of my computer chair in front of my computer was an exciting experience for me. Story 58. Club Penguin. RuneScape still a thing, thank goodness. Dollsmania. Chat rooms where people actually made friends and talked. Peanut butter jelly time. Story 59. The first naked picture of a woman I ever saw was Daisy Fuentes. It came from a bulletin board system I was connected to with a 1200 baud modem back in the early 1990s. Our phone line was tied up for about 2 days downloading it. I would say it was that. Story 60. Yahoo Games with chess and literati. Also Yahoo Auctions. The old bodybuilding.com forums from 2005 to 2012 were the Wild West. I also remember playing Magic, The Gathering on Apprentice. Story 61. Audio Galaxy allowed downloading entire catalogs of music previously available only on album or CD. Think of a song, and instantly the entire catalog was available in MP3 format to play at the touch of a button. This was around 1998 to 1999. Story 62. Yahoo Member Directory. You could search by age, gender, location, and other criteria. I found a tour guide for a trip to Lithuania and a longtime Chinese friend. We then chatted using Yahoo Chat. Story 63. Around the time of eBaum's World, Newgrounds, Stick Death, Funny Junk, AIM, and MSN Messenger, Xbox Live had just launched and torrents were still the best way to download anything. Story 64. I think it was the early 2010s. Social media was fun and less toxic, and YouTube was full of creative, random content. Memes were simple but hilarious, and everything felt more genuine. It just felt like people were online to connect and have fun, not to argue or show off. Story 65. In the beginning, we installed a T1 line at my company, and I was in information technology. A few of us would stay after work and surf the internet until 2 or 3 a.m. almost every night. It was new and exciting, like falling in love for the first time. We all shared newly found web links, some even without domain names, just IP addresses. There was so much to see. It was like going on a trip around the world, but at your desk. The best part was that Google did not exist. Story 66. Well, I would say before social media became popular, maybe the internet has more to offer on the positive side. Yet time will tell. I am that old and miss it. Story 67. Watching my dad call America online and get his internet membership extended after threatening to cancel laughing out loud. Also LimeWire and BearShare for sure. Story 68. Likewise, Ares, Windows Media Player, Winamp, Windows Messenger, and the buzzing option when people were not answering, among other things. Let us not forget the Numa dance. Story 69. Playing Diablo 2 and Age of Empires on the Microsoft Network Zone. I knew just enough to find information on the internet. I could download as much as I wanted on Kazaa and LimeWire, and still turn the computer off without anyone contacting me. Story 70. When browsers became user-friendly but before the government started restricting access, it was so much fun. It was like the Wild West. You could go anywhere, do anything, and find anything. Story 71. Webkins, Poptropica, Wizard 101, Toontown, 4Kids. Wattpad for teenagers before all the intrusive advertisements. Story 72. Jeff the Killer creepypasta fanfiction in Bitmoji format. Rolanda, Vivo, Tony Krynite, independent horror games such as Five Nights at Freddy's. Story 73. Probably late 1990s to the early 2000s with America Online Instant Messenger and building my own forum websites with my friends and playing Neopets. The internet felt so creative and open, full of possibility and color back then, but it also felt somehow small, not overwhelming. I am still glad we have the internet, but now it feels much more self-referential and fragmented, full of people trying to sell you things, whether ideas or actual products. Today's internet knows too much. It often directs us, not the other way around. Story 74. The MP3 blog era was really cool. Lots of people with unique curatorial vibes posted what they were interested in, regardless of whether it was the coolest or most popular track. I miss feeling like I could discover new things. FFF Found was cool too. Story 75. Digging up the coolest basic files for Visual Basic 3 to program AOL applications to disconnect people offline and break into full chat rooms. Story 76. Chatting in chat rooms on America Online in the late 1990s. As a teenager, I had a blast on America Online. I also stayed up many nights playing Slingo all night. Story 77. MySpace. Interest kind of came back when I first found the Reddit platform, but overall I dislike the internet now compared to around 2007. Story 78. AOL programs and punters. What an age of chaos, all because AOL would not shut down inappropriate chats for children. I still have no idea how they got away with that and why no documentary was ever made about their tolerance for inappropriate content and exploitation rooms, but they always shut down hacker rooms. I ran a website called Alienwares where you could download all sorts of programs, and I even made a few myself in Visual Basic. Story 79. Facebook was the start of the decline. Before Facebook, if you wanted to discuss your hobby online with people who shared your interest, you went to forums. When Facebook started pages and groups, it killed all the forums I frequented. Sometimes I log into one just to see what is happening and find nothing. Story 80. Before, everything had advertisements, and the internet was full of real people. There were probably only 10% bots, but now it is 75% bots and 25% real people, or I suppose now it would be artificial intelligence. Story 81. Early America Online chat rooms. There was one with a Sailor Moon game, and I met many cool people there. Later on, AOL Instant Messenger, LimeWire, and LiveJournal. Story 82. The ways to kill your games are satisfying to use different methods to ignore the most annoying people like your boss and others. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.